I want you to imagine this. You got a powerful political family. They launch a massive cryptocurrency project. It's got everything: a stable digital dollar, you got a governance token, and billions of dollars flying around the world in both directions. Now, the family, they insist there's no problem. One co founder even says maybe the idea that a powerful figure's checking blockchain ledgers for political favors is complete nonsense. Yeah, and sure, maybe that sounds right. But here's the question that should fascinate you. When a powerful political family's private businesses and public policy decisions start to overlap with crypto, how can we tell what's a smart investment and what might be a fundamental conflict of interest with problems? That's what you got to think about. And it's not about who's guilty or who's innocent. It's about the system itself and how the system makes these overlaps almost impossible to untangle. Now, let's start with some of the basics. I'm talking about World Builder Financial. It's a tech finance hybrid that launched two big things. You've got the digital dollar token, DDT. That's a stable coin. That means it's designed to stay pegged to the US dollar. One DDT equals $1. And the governance share, GS, that acts a bit like a stock. It gives holders voting rights and potentially a share of the profits. Now, here's where it's going to get interesting for you. The political family, let's call them the first family, they hold a massive stake in World Builder Financial through a private entity called the Family Holding Company. And that means that DDT or GS does, well, the family's going to do well directly. And that's not illegal for anybody, but it raises one of those big ethical engineering questions. If the people who make policy also profit from the policies they make, how can anybody tell which decision came first? Now, I want to be super clear. None of what follows proves any wrongdoing, but they're really interesting coincidences. So take a look at three of them, almost like case studies in how influence moves through crypto. A major Gulf state invests $2 billion into World Builder's financial token project. That's the digital dollar token. And then 2 weeks later, that same state gets access to some of the most advanced US AI chips in the world. Both sides deny any connection, and maybe there isn't one. But if you were designing a system where influence could be quietly exchanged, well, this is how it might work. Shortly after, a prominent crypto billionaire invests tens of millions of dollars into the venture. The Securities Oversight Commission suddenly pauses its active investigation into that billionaire's companies. And again, maybe it was a coincidence. Maybe it was timing, but the optics are kind of bad. And then there's a private dinner. You had a high profile event for top buyers of a viral meme coin that was associated with the family. The same coin that repeatedly earned one family member hundreds of millions of dollars. So it's fair to ask, when the same names keep appearing in both the private crypto deals and the public policy decisions, how do we separate coincidence from conflict? Now, this is the part that really is kind of fascinating because it's about the technology itself. One of crypto's biggest selling points is transparency. Every transaction gets recorded on the blockchain, but it's only kind of public. The blockchain doesn't show you names, it shows addresses, and it's going to have long strings of characters. So even though the data is technically visible, it's not actually clear who's behind it. That's called pseudonymity, not anonymity, but it's close enough to make regulators sweat. And if you want to go one step further, you can use something called a crypto mixer or a privacy coin. Those tools scramble transaction trails, basically laundering the history of who sent what to whom. Now, once a token has gone through a couple of mixers, it's pretty impossible to trace. Now, here's the kicker: all of this is legal in most places. And that's because crypto regulation is still this patchwork Wild West. Every country has its own rules, and some rules are so new they're barely tested by anybody. So the system itself is built for plausible deniability. And this isn't just one country's problem. In the UK, you had a major political party recently announced they would start accepting crypto donations. Now, in Ireland, regulators ban them completely. Different governments are coming to totally different conclusions. They don't know what happens when money that's hard to trace meets power that's hard to question. So, where the hell does that leave us? World Builder Financial might be an honest attempt to modernize money. It might also be a test case for how influence hides in plain sight on the blockchain. When wealth becomes digital and pseudonymous and power is still very human, it becomes nearly impossible to tell where one ends and the other begins. And that's the real ethical puzzle that we're dealing with today. In a world that's increasingly built on digital assets, the most valuable currency just might be unfakeable, absolute transparency. We don't have that today.